Today we have a second episode of a three-part webinar with Daniel Schwartz. And but before we start with that, I'm just gonna say what I always say. Welcome to 7 Insider. As you all know, we started this with the outbreak of pandemic as our, in the beginning, modest attempt to see through the noise that we've been exposed and are still exposed, especially during these days of isolation, which I'm sure everyone's experiencing to a certain degree. Hopefully those in luckier countries are already going or already got vaccinated or getting vaccinated. Others like me, where I live in a country where we don't have a plan. So, I mean, vaccination plan. And anyway, good luck with that. So part of a 7 Insider, as you know, we offer a variety of content. A lot of it is free content. Some of it is paid content or premium content, such as this. But I urge everyone to at least register, because even with that, you will get access to a lot of content. So I'm just going to show you here briefly what we have lined up now. We obviously have now, today, while the fires burn, a Glacier Odyssey with Daniel Schwartz, part 2. And then on February 19, we have, excuse me, third part and final part. And then on February 25th, we have awesome conversation between our friend Seamus Murphy with Elisa Griswold, if I'm not mistaken. And so I urge everyone to look at the calendar. I'm sure you're going to find something interesting for everyone. And part of the reasons, I guess, because that we are doing this webinar with Daniel in 3 parts is also because it spans, we're talking technically, well, practically, we are talking about single project, which basically spans for 30 years, which, as Daniel mentioned earlier, appeared in several books and so on and so forth. So we feel that it really deserves the time and space spread over 3-hour-long sessions. So thank you all for bearing with us. Today, it's going to be slightly different dynamic of the webinar. As you may have noticed, but those who didn't will ask, Daniel he likes to call himself an analog person. And that obviously concerns the way he takes pictures. All of his pictures are done in black, most of them in black and white, negative, and he mainly processes all of his material and so on and so forth. So I think it's important in this digital age to somehow put these two together, in the sense that many of younger colleagues, and I assume many of you here, don't really have this analog silver halide experience, which I was lucky enough to experience in my beginnings as a photographer, and I miss them dearly. And I have to say, I think I was a much better photographer while I was shooting film. Anyway, I'm sure we can discuss that as well, even though it's not necessarily part of a Glacier Odyssey. So today we actually have a short film. It's about 30 minutes long. And so I urge everyone to stay, because it's integral part of this webinar. But it also, I assume, will answer a lot of questions that you have about the way Daniel works, about, how he physically works, travels and visits all these often inhospitable and complicated and difficult places to access. So we have this short film, which we're going to play here. It's the first time we are playing something of this length in our webinars and book clubs and other events, but it works. So I urge everyone to stay with us. I'm sure I would, again, urge, as the film goes on, if you have any immediate questions, don't wait, just post them in our Q&A box and we'll get to them. But before we play this really beautiful and really informative film called Bringing Down Images from Mountains of the Moon, and as it says, a short tour from below the equator to the darkroom and beyond during the making of While the Fires Burn and A Glacier Odyssey. I think it's also it's a testament to how meticulous Daniel's approach to this awful subject. I mean, it's beautiful subject, but it's awful what we are doing to our environment. So before we start playing, I think Daniel wanted to address a few questions that we had before. Yes, I mean, day before yesterday. So Daniel, I'm going to stop sharing now because I think you wanted to also show something and elaborate on a few things we touch base last time. So Daniel, thank you very much for coming again. And so what did you want to bring up?
Thank you, Ziyah, for introducing me. Hello, everybody. Last time was a bit condensed, and some very good friends of mine, they gave me the advice that maybe in the public there are not only climate scientists, but also photographers. So I would like to just come back to one image which people have been intrigued about, this piece of wood, which was found under a glacier and is 4,000 years old. Now, people would say, what is a piece of wood under a glacier? Now, of course, this piece of wood comes from the glacier, which you see in the pictures on the same slide. It's the Lower R Glacier, and this means
Can you just share? Sorry, can you share the image? I don't think you did.
Oh, yeah, it's here.
You didn't share it. You have to hit share screen.
Sorry. Okay, share screen. I need to get out. Share screen. Good. Thank you.
Coming up.
Yeah. So here we go. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I don't repeat what I said. The picture is here now. The piece of wood as well. You see, it has a beautiful shape like this. And actually, this piece of wood shows you how the glacier worked on these forests when they advanced 4,000 years ago, squeezing and squashing the wood. Now, this timberline is 600 meters higher than the timberline today, which means that some part of history it was warmer than it is today. And as I already said in the first lecture, you know, we are locked in an ice age with interglacials and glacials with warmer and less and colder periods.
Excuse me, Daniel, you said 600 meters. I assume 600 meters of altitude. 600
meters higher than today's timberline.
Got it. Sorry.
Which means the forest today stopped 600 meters below the glacier. So the question is, why did forests grow 600 meters higher at some point in history, 4,000 years ago? Simply because it was warmer. And this warm period coincided with the Roman Empire, which of course makes sense, because the warm, stable climate during that time also helped the Roman Empire to expand. And when the Romans crossed the Swiss Alps, they did not see any glaciers, not because they didn't want to see them or because they were not accurate observers, but the glaciers had retreated so much and the forests had grown up so much that they simply didn't see any ice, right? So it's in the nature of the planet, depending on his position in the mechanics, if it tends closer to the sun or less away from the sun, colder and warmer periods come. So in 2,000 or 5,000 years from now on, there will be another glaciers will advance again. Now that should not sort of be a pretext to buy yet another car, you know, because as I said before, climate change is a generational affair, and you should care about the environment your children live and not or the life expectancy of your children and grandchildren. Not think, well, in 4,000 years it will be cold anyway again. So that's just some words to that piece of wood. And then Ziyah, you had asked me, why do I make books, right? So I think the question, you know, I sort of went around, you know, and I'm famous for not addressing the questions right away, because I love books, you know. I do not possess them. As a book collector, I consider myself rather the host of my books, you know, and at night when I sleep, they might converse about time, space, and cultures. I don't know what they are talking about. some books might find it strange in a particular neighborhood, and some might wonder why they are twice in two different sections of my library. But the main thing is that I consider books also relevant as part of my archive. And those of you who have listened to the beautiful three-part section of Hilary Roberts and her American colleague about Photographer's Archive, I strongly advise, and you know what I mean, because the archive is the context of your work. And in the case, in my library, one section of books filled with books of others was needed to make one book. You know, as an example, this one, in fact, two books. So this one is the one with photographs, only photographs. And this one, it's simply 1,000 pages of text. It's a book of captions, which of course we're not able to put into the artist's book. Now that also explains why I'm shooting analog, because all this caption information I simply could not process embedded into an image file. Now you might ask, why don't you take a picture which replaces 1,000 words? And that's exactly the point. We know this term, and I have very big suspicions that it works. And what you see here is really one of my beliefs, and it shows my modus operandi. I think we only see what we know, because many things are hidden. You don't know what is in this container. You don't know what these kids are doing in Afghanistan. You don't know anything if you look at the pictures, except some kids which should be in school rather than playing around in a barren landscape, which is, of course, they are not playing around. So underneath you see sort of a complex story worked into a typographic text works. And text works are a part of my expression as well. You will see that in the third lecture, how they sort of complement the images. And as you can see, of course, the typographic shape echoes the one of the container, and as in a container, smuggling goods of the war business are embedded, information is embedded in that typographic work. And then there was a question by Maciek, who asked how my style of work has changed as I moved from sea level to high altitudes, from delta to glaciers. I would say that content, subject, content, message define my visual approach. And then, of course, there are specific things to look at. You know, the deltas, really, I try to avoid what I choose to call the Salgado trap, to celebrate the beauty of despair. Rather than putting entire demographics into drawers labeled Exodus or workers, I prefer to encounter one individual and tell her or his story, because it's more comprehensible for people to understand and identify and understand the particular problems. In the case of glaciers, as I started working from the helicopter, you know, once you detach yourself from ground, things start looking nice. But everybody knows the famous picture from the Blue Planet, which the Apollo mission took. I mean, it's not a beautiful place at all once you look close on the ground, but from far away it looks beautiful and perfect, which is not. Now, as you can see here in this diptych, it's the same care I try to give whether I'm looking at a dead body or in a cyclone aftermath, slightly focusing not on the body but on the carcass of the cow in the foreground. And it's the same informed eye which helps me to put into an image, into a vertigo image, a dying glacier seen from about 2,000 meters above ground. So Maciek, I hope the question is answered. As a principle, style follows the subject, and the underlying quality which I try to give is some sort of compassion and content on information. The image has to provide information as well. It needs to be readable, but of course it needs to invite the viewer first through the visual composition, the magic, the enigma, the secret, the hidden, what you see, all this balance.
I have to just say something, because Maciek is actually currently a participant of our seminar for narrative and documentary practice, and we had a talk on style and on visual style. So it's a tricky one, right? In the sense that, especially for people who are younger, but also for those who are less young, like me, we all desperately try to be visually distinctive, right, as photographers, hoping that that would put us on a horizon of, or put us in a spotlight, or call it whatever, of the editors and magazines and eventual clients. And I used to believe that visual distinction is key to basically be different and be recognizable as image maker. But I have to say, as you know, as I'm getting older, I realize that there's a huge also danger in being slave to the visual style, you know, as without necessarily criticizing. But you remember the Danish School of Journalism at some point produced so many photographers who were following this particular style, visual style, closely related to Danish School of Journalism, that at some point you would have, I don't know, 5 winners at World Press Photo, and you couldn't literally say who's who, because all their images looked exactly the same. They followed very to the letter. They followed rules of composition and this particular way of dodging and burning and so on. So Maciek, just to basically add on what Daniel just said, as much as visual style is important and as much as it is our signature, I think the story behind and our vision of the world is probably more important. And as Daniel said, style follows the story, if I'm recalling correctly. And we have to basically constantly adapt the style. Otherwise it becomes mannerism. And that's, I think, quite a dangerous place to be when we are dealing with documentary practice. Anyway, actually, Maciej has a follow-up question. Do you want to take it now, Daniel, or you want to move forward?
Let's look at the film, if Maciej can.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, Maciej, we'll get back to that later. So people, I'm going to stop sharing Daniel's slides, if that's okay, and I'm going to play this film. So please bear with us. It's a beautiful insight in the way photographer works. And hold on, here it is. So please stay with us, and see you in a bit.
I like to take driving pictures.
Sio ulinzi ya kuchunga nyinyi ya kuchunga sasa mtu kama namna amesimama
größer, das ist also so blauisch. Siehst.
Yeah, this is the chopper. Video, use video. Hey. I've got it. Hey. I've got it. For me, I'm just on video. I've got it. No, I did video. Video? They're coming back out. You removed the battery. It was your problem. Katani, why don't you first say something? You guys are on the church and be talking for me and taking video. Yeah, you just be talking. Hello! Just at the pass, wait for come on, get a pass. I think it's about 50 meters. The chopper, yes. Unguru. We're taking it now. I think the chopper. This is me. I'm just on video. Katende with the chopper. Yes. We're gonna pass for 50 meters. Hey guys, I can see you. Even though you don't give me a tip, I don't mind. It's enough for me. They are going back to check on. But this pilot, yeah, he's a perfect guy. Greeting us almost for 7 times. Hey!
There's a bit of an echo there. Thank you everyone for watching this. So Daniel, we have some questions here, but I just wanted to, there are some questions regarding your darkroom workflow, some comments from Maggie and so on, but just one question before we move to that. So who are all these people? Who are all these people in the video? Not just at the very end, but that appear, you know, there's, I assume, security, rangers, and so on and so forth. So who, I think there's something that often is missing from the conversation with photographers, and that is the question of fixers or guides or call you whatever. I think they are definitely unsung heroes of all our photos. And I think with projects like this, it becomes crystal clear the value of people we work with in the field. So can you just give your 5 cents on that?
Yeah, you have indicated the importance already. I really think it's, you often find people who tell you, I'll get you in, and my question then is obviously also get me out, or in this case, down. And I really think it's these people and those of us who work on front lines and war zones even more, and those who go for topographic expeditions. You really depend on local knowledge, on human and not so much on sat-int, on human intelligence, on people who can tell you who can smell the weather and are totally familiar with everything. They know the sounds. They can tell you, you know, in the Ruwenzori we were told which leaves we can eat and with which leaves we can do other things. You don't want to mix the two. So it's really important to put your trust. And for instance, in Afghanistan, I very often, people were asking me, were you never in danger, your life was never in danger? And I always said, maybe yes, but I didn't know because I always trusted the people I was with. And then they said, it's time to go, then I did not object. I did not push for a picture which would risk my and the people who took me their life. So I always thought I don't know anything. As much as I could prepare myself, but don't know anything. And these people at the end of the film, you see, these are basically those who made possible a mission impossible, because the Ruwenzori, as you can sense from these images, is always shrouded in clouds and mist. And when we talk to these company in Kampala, they said, look, I'm in this country since 20 years and I've tried and it's just impossible. But let's give it a try. Very, very complicated situation. And you have a job to stand by there but you're 30 to 40 kilometers away from the mountain and you only see the silhouette and clouds and things. And so these people, we went with them into the mountains for 5 days, and then we decided, or they suggested they would go on, stay another 2 days and advance to another pass from where they could see the weather coming from Congo on the other side, which was very vital. So we were waiting for the SAT phone ring take off, and we took off in midst of heavy rain, you know, where otherwise we wouldn't have, and went around the clouds and really found in 4 sorties these amazing situations. So really, really lucky. My problem there was I had no way of preparing myself because there was little imagery, no maps, and completely not the case in Switzerland, as we see in the next lecture. So I just had to shoot whatever came. And as you could see, I was measuring my light, as I said in the first lecture. I'm always try to slow down any drama. So using my analog Hasselblad, have to change film, 12 frames only, measuring the light rather than shooting away hundreds and hundreds of pictures. So I really tried to focus on what I saw. And then you could see also that I had to spend much more time to allocate the images to the situations which I'd photographed, because there was very few reference imagery that I knew what I had photographed. And even when I compared all the photographs like those from 1906 by Vittorio Sella, everything is covered in ice. And now I'm looking at rock. So also there, I don't have any reference points. So that was a second adventure then to know what I actually had photographed. And to be on the ground before, to have walked into the mountains for these many days, helped me also to understand then the things I saw from the air. Because as I said before, you know, if you look down, things look nice. but you don't want to have nice pictures. You want to show what is relevant.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there's a question about your darkroom. So it's from Victoria Adusanya. I apologize if I didn't pronounce well. So let me just read the question. So I have two technical questions. Are all the photographs in your books based on reproductions of your positive prints, or do you ever work with negative scans?
The book on glaciers and was based on scans from the negatives. This one, because it has black and white and color, they were the production of the book was based on RC and C prints. But all my previous books, the one on Delta, the Great Wall of China, and the very first one on Greece, were based on gelatin silver prints, which I made myself, and according to the sizes of the book, more or less, because you don't want to reduce too much.
Okay.
So I've gone through all the different phases of material to prepare for production of books. The beauty, of course, if you have a gelatin silver print, this print is at Steidel's presses when the sheet comes out of the press, and you can compare with the real image and not on a computer screen, which is calibrated, of course, but on yours it looks different than in the lab, which does it for you.
And this, also a question from Victoria is there a place for you to use RC paper in your lab work, or is it budded all the time?
Well, it's the same infrastructure I use. You know, I mean, in the film you saw these things which I call my work prints, RC papers. I processed it very quickly, very rapid, and then I really use them as material to work with. And for collectors or for my own archive or for exhibitions, then I do barite gelatin silver prints up to a size of 50 to 60 centimeters, which is the maximum. The one you saw in the film was 40, 50, and as you have seen, the tray with the developer stays in a tray of cooling water to balance the temperature, which is always 20 degrees.
Yeah, and let me see, there's more. Just give me a second. There was a follow-up question on visual style from Paul, who's with us on all of these, I have to say, if I'm not mistaken. So he's asking, he's saying, so there are those of us who are trying to transition from one mode of operating to another. In example, news and events to documentary, and wondering if we should, in capital letters, develop a style or not. It feels self-conscious to shoot in a particular stylistic way. So the question is, should or should not? If there is an answer to that, actually.
I think there's no right one answer. The problem, if you have your style and you put your style on everything which by nature is different, you know, especially if you move between cultures and regions and subject, I think it's very important to let your style adapt to your subject matter. I think otherwise you might, of course, develop a trademark, you know, that your work, because of your style, becomes totally connected to you. I mean, if Martin Parr photographs a piece of cake, it looks the same as he would probably photograph a tree or a person. You know, this is by no means a critique, but it's just, you know, what I see. But it's, you know, it's Martin Parr. I'm not interested that people say this is a Daniel Schwartz. I'm interested that people say, oh, now we are in Bangladesh, and these people here, they have an existential problem. And if a geologist 50 years from now looks at one of my pictures, he say, yes, this guy, he understood what he was looking at, because we can see permafrost thawing, we can see landslides crashing through a moraine because the moraine has been weakened because of the glacier retreat. So I'm more interested in that. I'm not, I'm not particularly interested that people, that's why my work, I found out after I'd done the Great Wall of China and then did the work in Delta, was really from 4 or 5 inch documentary, architecture, conceptual even, it was conceived, and then Delta was a reportage. People said, were you the same guy who photographed the Great Wall of China? So I always considered that nice to slip from one drawer, escape and go into the other, because the industry has a tendency to put authors in drawers. So my work would be never suitable for National Geographic because I don't photograph the way they think the world has to look.
And I think we have time for one more question. So it's again from Maciej, and he's saying, so Mike, I'm just going to read the question. My question was also about the style, was about the fact that for some time now, many people have been interested in this topic that you have been working on for decades. And has more interest helped you go further, or it has become a problem? I imagine talking about your project with editors and people on site looks different today.
Well, I think everybody who got inspired through other people's work on the environment and on my work is good, because it helps to raise awareness and prompt calls for action. So I think, I'm not, no photographer has a privilege to occupy one territory, because I also think we all have to share things, we all have the privilege to be able to stand on Leonardo da Vinci's shoulders and work on the perspectives he has opened for us. The tricky thing is to come down from Leonardo's shoulders and still be able to provide something decent. But that's a very good, nice challenge, I think. But I think in my personal case, it has never been too early, or more difficult now. But people trust me. They say, yeah, you have done that all the time. Why didn't we see it? Yes, because I said before, it was difficult. It's difficult if you work in the media to get a publication for something which is not in the headlines.
Brilliant. Okay, people, thank you very much. I think we are on time. We still have one more lecture, webinar, and it's day after tomorrow. So I don't know, Daniel, if you want to say what you're gonna talk about. What are we going to talk about on Friday, or you want to?
In the third lecture, we are going basically to look into the making of this book. So this section now is sort of to get you a little bit, to get you out in the field, to see the guy who's dragging himself up to the mountain and on slippery ground down again without trying to fall, depending on this wonderful people's help to survive and bring down his images. And you saw some maquette versions ultimately leaving in that book, and I will guide you through the making of that, not of the book, but it will be more than focused on my work on glaciers in Switzerland, as well as in Pakistan and some other places where we find things under the glacier.
Brilliant. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone. And see you day after tomorrow. Take care. Bye.